Twins rally back thanks to Royce Lewis's go-ahead home run. They take the series over Toronto. We're breaking it all down next on the Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Back in the lab, back at it, another Minnesota Twins postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man in the flesh, Sweet Lou Hennessey. Give him a follow if you haven't already. He's on X at Sweet Lou MN, Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. And Lou, before we jump into all the action from today's game, quick. Up to $100. Okay, game 3 versus the Blue Jays, rubber match on the line. Bailey over on the mound. He was fantastic per usual. 6 innings, just 1 hit allowed, a solo shot in the first. Twins tie it back up. 8th inning. Jacks. It just never looked right with Griffin Jacks right from the jump, right from the get-go. Loads the bases, hits the next batter, ends up giving 2 runs. Twins down 3-1, bottom 8th inning. Royce Lewis hits one into the flower box, 16th homer of the year. Twins take that 4-3 lead. Duran comes in, shuts things down. Twins just desperately needed this one. Cleveland won today. KC lost. Lou, start as always. Just biggest takeaways, kind of your A topics. Then we'll do a little deep dive on Bailey Ober's day next as well.
Hey, this was a very fun win, and I might say this was their most needed win of the season so far. They needed to stop the skid of series losses here, and so to start a new winning streak, hopefully for Series 1, I think that's huge, and this is going to be kind of that tentpole moment, hopefully going forward for the next month as they try to push towards the postseason here. But definitely one that you're grateful to have a fun and happy plane ride on the way out instead of what would have been pretty dull, pretty terrible.
Yeah, Debbie Downer mode for sure on that plane ride. It felt like everything was coming down to this Griffin Jacks 8th inning. Again, tie game, just never really looked comfortable or in command for the most part, basically right from the jump. Walks with the bases loaded, then first pitch with the bases loaded, hits the next batter, gives up 2 runs, all said and done. Super deflating, obviously, especially that late in the game. But then Royce Lewis, 16 games without a home run, hits the 6th go-ahead home run of the season. Such a huge play, such a huge moment in the game. When you think about how badly this Twins team needed a spark, needed some new mojo in that dugout, plus you think about how good Pablo looked Friday, you got Brooks Lee back today as well. How much did this one game, even though it's just one game, maybe move some momentum back in their direction for these last 26 games or so?
Yeah, I think it's going to be so important for them to see that, you're allowed to persevere through some of these challenges here. Going with Griffin Jacks there, he was definitely getting pinched a little bit in that, I think, the second at bat where he gave up the walk. But you're allowed to persevere through that. You're allowed to find a way to punch out the next guy instead of giving a single. Not to say that the single was his unraveling or anything, but you're allowed to get through some of these bad breaks. So I'm glad that overall, hopefully that's what the team can glean from some of their early struggles and being able to push through, make adjustments, and find a way to wind up on top.
Well said there. Good breakdown. Got to do a deep dive on Bailey Ober. Just superb. Once again, 6 innings, 1 hitter, 1 earned run. Again, came on a solo shot in the first. Calmed down, though, after that first, though. Just mowed through that lineup all day long. 8 strikeouts on 94 pitches. 6 of them on that 4-seam fastball. 2 of them on that 2-seam changeup. Just kind of the same old rock solid, consistent Bailey Ober today. What do you love the most and what was working so well?
Yeah, actually, I'm not even too upset about the pitch that he gave up the home run on. That was a high fastball that's been his bread and butter for the entire season, especially when he's been at his most effective. Clement was just right on top of it and put a good swing on it. Glad to see that Bailey could kind of turn the page a little bit after such a challenging start last time, which kind of fluky situation. There's some rain coming in, some time constraints, but still, it was good to see him be able to put that home run in the back on the rear burner there and push forward with another just rock solid start.
I don't expect you to just have this locked and loaded in the back of your head, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Which Twins starter has gotten the least amount of run support this year? Because Bailey has to be like in the top 2 or bottom 2, I guess, however you want to look at it. Feels like he's fantastic out there, 4 out of 5 starts, right? And then he just never really gets any run support along the way.
Yeah, it's easy to feel like that for all of their starters right now.
I suppose you could say
lack
that
of run support, but I would bet that Bailey is pretty high up on there. I think Joe Ryan was pretty high up there before he got hurt. I'm not sure how those numbers have balanced out since he's been on the shelf.
Yeah. I got to ask you real quick here. We haven't talked in a while. Just Pablo, what you thought of Pablo's start? 20 2/3 scoreless innings now in his last 3 starts. Just in the zone Friday night. Looked like that alpha Pablo Lopez we kind of got accustomed to there for a while. How huge would it be to get this kind of dominant version of Pablo these last 4 weeks?
Absolutely massive, especially if the Twins are to make the first round of the playoffs there. That's a 3-game series, so it's being, that game 1 starter is super important. Yeah. And to have Pablo hitting his stride at this point of the season is a godsend really for this team, especially considering some of the challenges that he was going through early in the year. When all's said and done, I don't know if he's going to get much love for Cy Young or All MLB or anything like that, just with how tough the first half of the season was. I'd give that up to have, Pablo looking like this in the playoffs. I'd be just fine with him kind of flying under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, well said. I know we rip on this front office a lot, as we should. I think it's more than warranted. But if we're ripping on them for, all their bad moves or lack thereof, should we also be applauding them for making those moves for guys like Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober, etc.? Because looking back, that Pablo trade was just so huge. It was just so massive. If you think the pitching's bad now, just think about what it would have looked like without Pablo at the top of this rotation.
Yeah, they've hit on some big swings there, like with Pablo. It was a pretty unpopular trade at the time for a lot of folks. Beloved Luis Arias, who, of course, everybody loves watching Luis Arias play baseball. But they looked to trade from their area of depth and to get a frontline starting pitcher, which they've been seeking for my entire life. So I think that it was, those big swings that turn out, we definitely got to give them their flowers. I think it's okay to give them some criticism for the lack of action in addressing their bullpen. And just the fact that they never invest very much in terms of either financially or prospect capital, it seems like, into that bullpen, and they just kind of wing it. And for the most part, it's gotten them through, but I think they're definitely due for some criticism there. And like you said, a lot of praise for Pablo and some of the other bigger moves they've made.
Yeah, well said. Couple wins, couple losses for sure. I know this doesn't always equate or translate to who's the best and who's the most talented, because there obviously is a lot of other factors going on. But who's been the best starting pitcher for the Twins this year as far as the Twins' record when that guy has started? Because they're 15-8 when Woods Richardson gets the nod, and I feel like that's got to be up there near the top.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the numbers, but that definitely rings a bell. And, you got to give Sim his credit, too, for being able to step in and make sure the team's in a position to win. I got to think that Bailey Ober's up there just with how awesome that 3-month stretch is that he went through, that hopefully he's getting right back on that horse. But, yeah, it's hard to imagine Pablo being very high up there, but who knows?
Mm-hmm. Rocco report time, Game 3 versus Toronto. The Rocco report, it says what?
Look, when I saw the starting lineup today, I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, having Royce down in the 6 hole, some kind of guys mixing and matching. Then when I heard that they had the skinny on the Blue Jays pitcher, the starter Rodriguez, that he would probably have a short start and they would move on to Yarborough, the lefty, kind of started to make more sense. And now just seeing how everything shook out, I don't think Rocco made that lineup with the intention of, I think Royce is going to come up and hit a go-ahead bomb in the 8th inning. But that's how it landed. So sometimes you just gotta tip your cap and say, hey, good job constructing this, and knowing that Royce was probably going to stay in the game the whole, the entirety of it. It gives some prime opportunities for pinch hitting before him, and we saw what happened.
Hey, Rocco's playing chess, not checkers today, man. Right. Good breakdown there. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one. Plus, we got our nerdy stat of the day. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. Also what keeps your ride or die alive. In eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights. They got it all. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, they got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Hey, just real quick, what'd you think of Royce Lewis at second base? Pros, cons, for it, against it? What'd you think?
He held his own. I was glad to see him make a couple pretty nifty plays there. He's such an athlete. I have confidence that if he established himself at second base, he would be a really good second baseman. But personally, I think his future is still at third with Brooks Lee at second base. But, it's good to have some versatility. They have a few guys that can only play one position, kind of the star players. I'm talking Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, even somebody like Carlos Santana. They all just play one position. So to have as much versatility around that, especially for how much Rocco likes to pinch hit and play the splits game, it's probably a good idea for him to move around a little bit.
Yeah, plus you got like guys like Willie Castro who can do a little bit of everything. It's just insane the amount of toys and options Rocco has when it comes to that middle infield for sure. You mentioned it. Finally got Brooks Lee back. I think he was 1 for 3 at the plate. How much does he help this lineup that obviously needs a lot of help? And how desperately do they still need to get some of these other guys back? Because we are officially in crunch time mode here.
Yeah, having Brooks Lee as a contributor at the big league level would be really massive for this team right now. Yeah. We saw him scuffle a little bit before the injury, but it kind of calls into question how much was that injury really affecting him. So, if we get a healthy Brooks Lee, he has kind of a knack for when he gets promoted, he kind of has a slow start at the new level. And then when he comes back, whether that's after the offseason or after an extended injury absence, he kind of turns it on and it's almost like he finds a new gear. If he can do that at the big league level, as they approach the playoffs and being able to play shortstop, second base, third base, wherever, that's going to be massive, and let's hope that can happen.
Hey, if you didn't watch this game at home, if you weren't there, you can check out SportsCenter tonight because there's going to be a top 10 play on there tonight. Unfortunately, it's not in the favor for the Twiz. Jimenez, the Blue Jays second baseman, he came full speed into foul ground, made that diving catch into the stands. Then Austin Martin tried to tag up because, he was all tangled up in the net still. He ends up getting thrown out at home base. They end up reviewing it. He goes back to third. Break it down for me. What did you think about that play? How impressive was that catch? I mean, I thought that was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable catch. Really huge for their second baseman there, just going full throttle into the net. I hope that he's okay. It looked like it was pretty painful, but pretty heads up.
Came back into the game.
Yep, yeah. So, and that would have been a just devastating throwout at home if that would have stayed. Luckily, he went out of play, so it kind of a moot point, and they didn't end up scoring anyway. But just for a really, challenging week from, Tommy Watkins having some questionable calls, which all third base coaches are bound to have that. You only really notice them when they do, something wrong, so to speak. So, but this one in this game would have been truly devastating.
What worries you the most about this team these last 25, 26 games? Because the pitching stuff is obviously the topic around here, pretty obvious. But I want to know how much a case could be made for the Twins' offense struggling the way they have lately, too. I know they scored 4 today, but, 3 runs in 3 games versus St. Louis, 1 run versus the Braves in Game 3, 24 scoreless innings, I think it was, until they scored 1 today in the 7th. And if you remember, they needed the help of an error to even do that. So I'm just curious where your head's at, what side of the fence you're on. What's the deal? where's the pie chart of blame, I guess? What worries you the most down the stretch?
Sure. I'm not too worried about them slipping and missing the playoffs, knock on wood, but just based on the competition that's around them and kind of
Right.
the calendar that's still left here, I am concerned that even if they do make the playoffs, their lack of current star power is not going to get them very far. Thank goodness we saw Royce Lewis with a massive crucial home run today, but before that, he's been on a pretty tough skid. He said that he doesn't do that slump thing, and really over the past week, 2 weeks, even last month, he's had a pretty challenging go of it. So without Byron Buxton, without Carlos Correa, and with this version of Royce Lewis, and even someone like Max Kepler, you're taking out a lot of stars, or a lot of star power from that lineup. So getting 1, 2, 3 of these guys and getting them on track would be massive.
Speaking of Kepler, when I say most disappointing player this season, who comes to mind first? For me, I said this the other night. Max Kepler's got to be near the top of the list for me in a contract year too, by the way. I mean, seriously, if his name wasn't Max Kepler, right? If it was Joe Schmo, there's no way he wouldn't have gotten sent down a long time ago, right?
Yeah, no, it's been very tough for Max. I'm curious if he's been fighting something. And I know that recently he had the knee soreness that has really been slowing him down. I wonder if there's something that's been lingering even before then. But yeah, like you said, totally fair to say it's been a really disappointing season for him. I bet he would be the first person to tell you that they're disappointed. Like you said, a contract year, trying to set himself up. And I mean, let's be honest, he's trying to help his team. He's trying to be competitive, and he's trying to help the Minnesota Twins be competitive. So it's been pretty disappointing for Max.
Nerdy stat of the day, Tom. You got any crazy stat or fun analytic Twins related today? Locked and loaded. Lay it on us.
Yeah, so Royce Lewis, huge moment today, really good. Hopefully it can kind of turn him on for the rest of the season here, but he has been just brutal these last 14 days. He's slugging just 240 against right-handed pitching coming into today's game over the last 2 weeks. That's 10th lowest in the American League. Luckily, he turned that around tonight, got a good enough swing. That home run, let's be honest, it wasn't even a bomb either. He hit it, I think, 91 miles per hour or something, just kind of a wall scraper. But you know what? I'm sure he's hit a few 105 miles per hour that ended up being caught somewhere. So, baseball has a way of kind of balancing out in the end. And luckily, we were on the top end of the scale this time.
Yeah, if that guy in the first row was like blowing on that ball, it might not have made it, man. Because I'm telling you, that flower box, we're talking 6 inches into that flower box. It barely made it. If that left fielder would have even got a good jump, who knows? We could be singing a different tune right now. Don't go anywhere. Got to preview this upcoming series versus Tampa Bay. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me, my money, it's just by far the easiest. It's the most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. So simple. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season still in full swing here. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less. Add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app. Use code all lowercase Locked On MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, so you just went You just went 3-6 on this 9-game homestand. Now you got 7 in a row on the road. Starts with 4 versus Tampa. Tell us everything we need to know about them and what that matchup looks like with Simeon Woods Richardson versus Springs in Game 1 specifically.
Yeah, so the Tampa Bay Rays, they're not so much in the playoff picture this year, but they're always pesky. They always find a way to scrap some things through. We're going to see, I want to say we're seeing Zach Littell this series, former Twin, who's had a pretty good series off. Or a pretty good season in their rotation. Maybe I have that wrong, but either way, they're always a team that finds ways to have, pitchers that kind of come out of nowhere and just get some crucial outs. And they almost always seem to be a buzzsaw against the Twins, especially in Tampa Bay. So it'll be interesting to see what this kind of new look Twins club can hopefully do some damage on a team we're usually used to them kind of being on the playoff march at this time of year. So it could be a little different feel in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so again, 7 in a row, 4 with Tampa, then 3 monster games versus KC right after that. Back at home versus the Angels, versus the Reds before 4 with Cleveland. Obviously, we know that could arguably end up deciding the division, the series, whatever, what have you. What sticks out the most, though, when you see that schedule coming up, those next 4 series? What's like the biggest keys or storylines even that you're tuned into the most?
Honestly, I'm pretty grateful that we're not seeing the Royals and Cleveland back to back. I think that would be a
Right,
daunting week, and that's a
right.
lot of pressure to put on a team. Those games are
Yeah.
going to be high pressure enough as it is, those series will. So I'm glad that they're not back to back this time like we saw earlier this season. It'll be good to see a team like the Angels hopefully catch their breath a little bit. Same with against Cincinnati. So a kind of a mix of, guys that are full throttle heading towards the postseason here and teams that maybe are kind of trying to figure some things out for 2025.
Yeah, well said. What else is going on around the league? Like, well, what's changed the last week or so since you and I have talked as far as like AL playoff scenarios go?
Yeah, it's going to be a dogfight in the Central. We keep seeing the Royals and Cleveland and Minnesota. We keep seeing them kind of win and lose on the same day. So it's everybody's kind of in lockstep, it seems, right now. And I know it's hard for fans to look at other teams and understand that they're going through similar struggles as the Twins might be. Every competitive team wants to have a better option in their bullpen. Every team wants to have a little more star power. The things that I've been saying all episode here. So we're kind of in the dog days right now. It feels like guys, going on one last injured list stint before getting ready for the
Right.
playoffs here, kind of cycling young players in with the roster expansion, stuff like that. So it's like I said, it's the dog days right now.
Houston heating up though, won 5
Yep.
in a row. I think that they a team you don't want to face in the first round too. Is there any matchup we feel better about than the others when it comes to these possible wild card scenarios and matchups head to head wise?
Yeah, my brain would say that maybe, avoiding the Yankees and the Astros in the first round would be ideal. But my heart
Sure.
says, hey, let's jump right into it. Let's slay the
Mm-hmm.
dragon first. Let's have a little revenge tour. I think the ideal teams to go against in the first round there would probably be from our own division, just with the familiarity of the teams. And like I said, there's some demons of the past that maybe you'd want to avoid. Who knows?
Okay, well said. Great breakdown per usual. Always love chopping it up with you, talking Twins. Twins rally back today thanks to Royce Lewis's go-ahead homer in the 8th. They finally win a series, take the rubber match in Game 3 versus Toronto, on the road for 4 against Tampa. That starts tomorrow. Woods Richardson on the mound, first pitch, 5:50 p.m. Huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game right here, breaking it all down. Got to go check out all of Sweet Lou's work. Give him a follow on X at Sweet Lou NN, plus all the work he's always ripping up. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. So close to 8,000 subscribers. That's always much, much appreciated as well. All right, Sweet Lou, Luke Inman on X, at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time. But until then,